Welcome to CNN 10. I'm Carl Azus, and if for some reason you don't like hearing me say Fridays are awesome, at least you won't have to hear it again until January 3rd. This is our last show of the 2018 fall season. It starts in the Middle Eastern country of Yemen. After more than 3 years of war there, the sides that are fighting have agreed to a ceasefire in Hodeidah. That's just one city in Yemen, but here's why this is significant. Hodeidah is a port. It's held by the rebels who are fighting the Yemeni government. It's under siege by the forces that support that government, and Hodeidah is an entry point for 70% of the humanitarian aid that Yemen gets from other countries. It needs it. In addition to the devastation caused by the war, the United Nations says that Yemen is the site of the world's worst famine in 100 years, and 20 million people there are said to be hungry. The ceasefire is one of the agreements that was reached this past week in Sweden, where the two sides fighting in Yemen's war have been meeting. They've been having their first direct talks in more than 2 years, and along with the ceasefire in Hodeidah, they agreed to exchange a number of prisoners and to try to reduce violence around another Yemeni city. The civil war extends well beyond the nation's borders. Saudi Arabia supports Yemen's government. Iran supports the rebels who are fighting Yemen's government. The civilians who are caught in the crossfire are suffering.
Yemen, one of the poorest countries in the Arab world, has been engulfed by a bloody civil war for years. Thousands have been killed and millions displaced in the worst humanitarian crisis on Earth. It all started when a political transition meant to bring stability to the country failed. Once presided over by an authoritarian president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, corruption in the country was rife. Amongst widespread discontent, a minority Shia group from the north came along, the Houthi rebels. In 2011, masses took to the streets in protest of dictators throughout the Middle East. It was the Arab Spring. As a result, dictator Saleh was forced to hand over power to Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi in November 2011. But the shaky transition triggered unemployment, food insecurity, and suicide bombers. The capital Sana'a was taken over by the rebels in 2014. Hadi was forced into exile. The turning point came in March 2015, when a Saudi-led coalition began a military intervention in Yemen. Iran-backed Houthis on one side and US-backed Saudi-led pro-Hadi coalition on the other. The crisis escalated into a multi-sided war which allowed Al-Qaeda and ISIS to grow stronger amid the chaos. The conflict's impact on the population has been devastating. Tens of thousands of people have died. Half of the hospitals are damaged or reduced to rubble, and more than half of the population lacks access to clean water and basic hygiene. Cholera is endemic and out of control. Both sides of the conflict using food as a weapon of war. A brutal air, land, and sea blockade by the Saudi Arabia-led coalition makes food too expensive for most civilians. With 14 million people at risk of starvation, Yemen is on the brink of the world's worst famine in 100 years. Save the Children estimates that some 85,000 people may have already starved to death. Malnutrition and poor access to healthcare makes living conditions even worse. At least 3 million people have already fled their homes. Western journalists are largely blocked from entering the country to bear witness to the horrors of the conflict. And Yemen's war is often called a silent war, a forgotten war.
10-second trivia. Which of these South American countries has the largest population? Chile, Ecuador, Peru, or Uruguay? With 31 million people, Peru doesn't have the largest population on the continent, but it does have the largest on this list. And if you saw the CNN Heroes All-Star Tribute Sunday night, you already know that it's a doctor from Peru who was chosen as CNN's Hero of the Year. The work of Ricardo Punjang has extended well beyond giving medical care. He opened a shelter in the Peruvian capital of Lima, where sick children and their families can stay while the kids get their medical treatments. It doesn't cost them anything, and it provides the less fortunate who've traveled from near and far with food, a place to sleep, and as Dr. Punjang puts it, a lot of love.
Since we announced the top 10 heroes, we gave you the opportunity to vote for the hero who inspires you the most. The hero with the most votes will receive an additional $100,000 to continue their life-changing work.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2018 CNN Hero of the Year is
Dr. Ricardo Punjang.
In Spanish? Well, I'll try to do my best in English. Thank you for my volunteers that help these 10 years at our shelter. Thank you for all the people that knock the door and give us rice or beans or some money. That's why, because we are here tonight, because people believe in us. Thanks to my mom, to my father, and to my brother, my mentor, my brother Luis, because they taught me what to do in this life. And thank you to all of you. Thank you so much. We can start building now our new shelter with this prize. And we can triple our assistance, our support. Thank you so much, CNN. Thank you so much, everybody. Really.
On her 100th birthday, an Australian woman named Irene O'Shea celebrated by going skydiving. On her 102nd birthday, which she recently celebrated, O'Shea might have just set a record for being the oldest person to jump out of a plane. She's not just doing it for fun, she does these jumps to raise awareness about motor neuron disease, which her daughter had. Waiting at the bottom of her 14,000-foot jump were her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, who probably say that when it comes to Irene's bravery, sky's the limit. We're not sure why skydiving struck a ripcord with her. Maybe she tried it and just fell for it. Maybe her head's in the clouds. Maybe that's why it all too cumulated in a serious desire to take the plunge without stratosphere. And she had more than 100 good reasons to just skydive on in. Our staff and I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and we hope to have you watching again when CNN 10 returns on January 3rd, 2019. I'm Carl Azus.